Hey everybody, Greg Pruitt here with Idaho Dispatch, and this is our latest episode of the Deep Dive. And this one's going to be a little bit different because typically I am interviewing politicians or well-known, political figures, but this is different. And I'm joined today by Mr. Nick Edwards with the Attorney General's office. Most of you may not know Nick. You would maybe know Attorney General Labrador, but maybe you don't know this guy.
Yep.
But I had noticed over the last year a lot of press releases coming out from the AG's office regarding the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. Did I get that right?
You did. You nailed it.
It's easier to say ICAC right now, but this is a group of guys who are doing incredible work, targeting people who are targeting children, for lack of a better phrase. And so I reached out to Labrador's office. I wanted to talk to them about this program, what they're doing. If this program existed before, I didn't know about it, and they put out press releases that seems like weekly about people they're catching online who are targeting children. So anyway, with that, Mr. Edwards, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no
great.
problem.
Thanks for telling the story. It's going to be good.
Yeah, no, I honestly hope that through this all, a lot of parents can wake up to kind of what's going on, even here in Idaho and in our deep red conservative Christian state, that there are plenty of people who are looking to do harm to children. So I guess before we get into that, do you mind just a little bit about who you are
absolutely.
And how'd you come on to the AG's office? How'd you come on to this particular task force?
You bet. Yeah. So I'm Idaho native. I actually started in my law enforcement career here in Idaho. I worked at a local municipal police department for about 16 years.
Okay.
Worked everything from SWAT to school resource officer to field training officer. And then I actually, before I left the police department, I worked in a HIDA, or a high intensity drug trafficking area, and worked narcotics in plain clothes. And so my background was that. I was in detectives. In 2019, a position opened in the Attorney General's office to come in. A lot of people don't know, the Attorney General actually has sworn law enforcement officers that work in his office. There's different units. There's a special investigations unit. There's Medicaid fraud, Social Security fraud, excuse me. And then there's the ICAC unit, which is the Internet Crimes Against Children. I came over to the Attorney General's office in 2019 working in special investigations. So that's what I was hired to do, and I've been here since 2019. So on the other side, on my what I call my civilian job, because Attorney General, I work here full time. The Attorney General, I was hired under Attorney General Wasden, and I've stayed on with Raul Labrador. He's kept me on. But on my civilian side, the other side, I'm also in the Idaho Army National Guard still, and I've been doing that for 26 years now. So I've been both hats I wear. On and off.
Yeah.
But full time.
Did you do both deployments?
I have done 2 deployments. I did one in 2010, and then I just recently did one with Operation Spartan Shield to the Middle East in 2022 to 2023. Yeah.
Okay.
So those were the
that's different. I was thinking.
You were thinking the first one.
The first one.
With that,
yeah. Okay.
You were.
Okay.
So I've done those 2, and then other. Inauguration deployments, Hurricane Katrina deployments, some of those, but still doing that.
Now, does the AG's office move you around from team to team, or is it like, hey, I want to go work on that team instead? And
about a year and a half ago, typically he doesn't. Typically we stay investigating in a particular unit. About a year and a half ago, I was moved and took over as the ICAC commander. So the ICAC unit running that, and also made his chief investigator. So now I supervise the other investigators. There's 17 sworn full-time investigators in the Attorney General's office in the various units, and I am the chief investigator over those investigators.
Okay.
Yeah. So kind of 2 hats in the AG's office, ICAC, and then chief investigator.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what is again, ICAC, I assume, has been around for a while. And maybe you can give people a history of when this task force started, because I never heard of it until Labrador's office, and I assume it was in existence under Wasden, and maybe there wasn't as many press releases put out or something. I don't know. But a lot of people have asked me about that. They're like, why are we just hearing about this team now? And I'm like, I don't know. That's the question for this guy.
Yeah. Okay. The ICAC unit has been around for a long time, and what a lot of people don't realize, and I didn't realize, I'll be honest, when I took over as the the ICAC commander. I'd never worked an ICAC case. I knew that we had an ICAC unit within the Attorney General's office, but I'd never worked a case. Didn't know a lot about how they operate. And come to find out, no, it's been around for quite some time. And I think the initial task force was actually established like 2008.
Oh, gosh.
Some funding was by the Idaho legislators in 2013, and the task force has existed and kind of grown. I think the answer to your question is, there have been some significant changes in the ICAC task force, and in the last year and a half, the press releases that are out there that you're seeing, the stories, those are indicative of the changes we've made. I believe right now we have the right people in the right place at the right time. We're giving them the right training, the equipment, the resources, and telling them to relentlessly pursue suspects that are trying to exploit children. And they're doing a damn good job of it. They're moving hard. So we've got a great task force and the right people. So I think that's why.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. So give people, obviously without disclosing, maybe tactical things that you do. What does this look like on a day-to-day basis for the ICAC
for sure.
team?
So I think it's important to understand all of the task forces across the country. So nationally, there are 61 task forces for ICAC. Every state has one, and some states have multiple. As you can imagine, California has like 4. But Idaho has one, and a lot of them are housed out of the Attorney General's office. And so what happens is people get online, whether it's, they're on their social media sites, the Fbook, the iGram, whatever they're on, and using internet providers, your CenturyLinks and your whatever internet provider. And as you scroll and watch, those internet providers and social media sites are required, they're mandated by federal law to report if they have someone using their site that is suspected of downloading, uploading, sharing, buying, distributing any child sexual abuse material, or what is commonly referred to as child pornography. Yeah. Or if somebody's trying to entice a child on the internet. So I get this question a lot. Are people watching what I'm doing online? Absolutely they are. They're watching to see if you're exploiting children. And if you are, by law, by federal mandate, they have to report. And so these social media sites, these internet providers, they're reporting to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. It's called NCMEC. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children is based back on the East Coast, and they take in what we call cyber tips from all across the country. All these cyber tips come to them, and then they try to figure out what state it happened in and what task force it should be assigned to. So they're the clearinghouse for all of them. So I can tell you that the number one reporter in the United States is Meta, Facebook, and Instagram. They are the number one reporter. Doesn't mean they have the most, people that are on there exploiting children, but they're the number one reporter. So if you're using, as a word of caution, right, they are reporting 1,000%. Meta does, as do a lot of the other ones that are out there. So NCMEC gets the cyber tip, and they figure out what state. They figure out, all right, this happened in Idaho, and then they send them to our task force. So we get, on average right now, as of last week, we get 87 cyber tips a week is what we get in Idaho. Jeez. Across the state. And it could be happening in North Idaho, South Idaho, down here in the Treasure Valley, over in East Idaho, Magic Valley, wherever. But 87 a week is what we get. And if you flip, I actually have I can show you the kind of what's happened over the last couple of years.
We'll put these slides up on the screen for you guys so that you can see what he's looking at.
So page 3 there is a graph, and you can see that, in 2020, we received in the state of Idaho 1,385 cyber tips in 2020. Last year, we ended the year over 3,500 cyber tips coming into the state of Idaho. And so with 87 a week, we project that we'll probably be somewhere close to 4,200 by the end of the year. And so these are, for lack of a better term, a report where somebody believes that a child is being sexually abused. Mm-hmm. An image, a video, something, some sort of abuse is taking place. So now, backing up, what happens? We get that cyber tip. We get them daily. They come in all the time. And then I have what's happened historically. There was a backlog. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what has happened historically in the ICAC. A few years ago, when I took over as the ICAC commander, there was a backlog of almost 2,000 cyber tips that had just sat in the office and had not been triaged. So this is the National Center for Missing Exploited Children sending cyber tips to us, and we weren't. We were touching some of them. We were investigating and looking at them, some of them, but not all of them. And we formulated a backlog and almost a 2,000 cyber tip backlog. That's a significant backlog.
Yeah.
That's more cyber tips than we received in 2021.
Yeah.
Right. So we immediately realized we've got to manage this. We have to do something with this. And so what happened is the Attorney General, under his direction, we brought on some analysts that only triage cyber tips that we get from the National Center. So we have 3 full-time analysts. They're all ladies, and they're fantastic at what they do. And they look at every single cyber tip that we get in the state of Idaho. Those 3.
How do you define cyber tip? Like what people. What does that mean? Like, hey, I saw a picture of this. I'm pretty sure this is an underage kid that was shared over here, and so I assume that's what they're analyzing, right? Is like, okay, we understand the concern here, but this is not that. But this definitely is that.
Correct, and that's exactly what they do. When they get suspects online has a video or an image or something, it gets sent to the National Center. They have it. They send that to us and say, hey, this is the IP address it came from, or the username it came from, or whatever identifying information, plus the content. They send that content to us and say, this was the video that they saw, or the image that they had. They were trying to buy, sell, whatever. The analysts have to determine, is there enough here that it needs to be pushed to assigned to an investigator to actually investigate this thing? Or is this what we oftentimes call age difficult? Sometimes the content that we get, you don't know if that's an 18-year-old child that would fit under the category of pornography, which is legal, or is that a 14-year-old child? We don't know. And so oftentimes what we get is cases that are what we call age difficult, and those get closed. We don't further those. So the cases that we do assign out are absolutely content that needs to be investigated further. And I will tell you that half of what we get probably gets closed for other reasons as well, but oftentimes it's age difficult content.
Yeah. Well, I could tell you, I was a missionary in Japan, and I had a really hard time. So as missionaries, we weren't allowed to talk to anyone that was under 18. And we'd be at a stop talking to someone that we thought was a 25-year-old female, and then you keep going. They're like, "Oh, I'm 14," and we're like, we got to go.
And we understand that.
Be really
Absolutely,
difficult.
It can be, and we understand that. We recognize that, and we certainly don't. We are erring on the side of absolute caution. So these cases that we charge, that we find, these are, in my mind, beyond a reasonable doubt that there's no question these are children, sometimes infants. Sometimes some of the worst things that can possibly imagine, a prepubescent child that is, clearly a child, not age difficult, not even close. The line's way on the other side.
Yeah. Before we get too deep into that, I'm kind of curious now that we know that there's some folks analyzing this stuff. I think of groups like Operation Underground Railroad and all these groups that deal with trafficking and pornography and child exploitation and stuff, and just the spiritual and mental toll that it takes on people that have to deal in this world. Like, I couldn't do it. I'll be honest. I'd be like, I'd probably be behind bars because I want to go get some justice myself. So what kind of training and support do these analysts or the investigators who have to deal with this stuff, do you guys try to provide them to go, okay, hey, how are you doing? Like, are you okay? And, that kind of stuff.
Certainly one of the number one things that I'm concerned about as well as the task force commander, and not just our people that investigate this stuff full time, but anybody that has to work a violent crime against a child can be traumatic. So we do. When I took over, we put into some place policies and mandates that require our investigators to actually sit with a mental health expert twice a year. They're required to, regardless of whether they want to or not. We make them do it, and we've actually had very good success. I think the feedback has been really good. We contracted with a local mental health expert, a psychologist here, and he meets with everybody on the team twice a year. The other part that we brought in was group training that we actually mandate all of them to attend as well twice a year. So quarterly, they're hitting some sort of mental health resiliency training, whether that's suicide awareness, whether that's financial well-being or spiritual well-being, and we change the topics. But that's a priority for the task force, making sure that our people are that can do this job. And certainly
Yeah.
if anybody comes and says, I can't do this anymore, that's okay. Next person up that can do it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that our three analysts, they are doing what I call the Lord's work. They are doing it. Those three, they look at every cyber tip and they manage it. And then our investigators as well. And anybody along the investigative process that has to view or read about content.
Yeah.
Tough stuff to go through.
When they're analyzing that, so I'm an analyst and I look at this picture, video, whatever it is, and I say, okay, this is age difficult. Is it a one-person decision, or do all three of them have to go, yeah, we agree, this is not?
Yeah, it's usually one person that they've done it long enough, had enough training in it. They've been to trainings from the National Center.
Okay.
We have guidelines that they try to follow. They follow on does this go forward, does this stay? And if there's ever a question, we always err on the side of caution and assign it to an investigator, right? So they're not making that sole decision. If it's clearly something within their left and right limits, they'll close it or send it. If it's questionable, we usually err on the side of caution. We investigate it.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So you got these tips. They've filtered it out between investigate and not investigate. You get a tip about a guy or gal, whoever, in Kuna, Idaho.
Yeah.
What do we do from here?
So I love that you said guy or gal. I will tell you that 99.9% it's men. This is a men problem. We
Yeah.
don't arrest. Very, very, very seldom do we arrest a
Yeah.
female. This is men. No question. So the vast majority. So then to answer your question, though, we get this cyber tip. Let's say it happens in wherever, Kuna. What we do is we have Idaho's uniquely different in that no other state is set up like we are, and so legislators, and this is I certainly can't take credit for this. This was ICACs before my time that put into place legislation that actually funds what we call affiliate positions. So we have in Idaho both full-time affiliates and part-time affiliates. And what I mean by that is we have 11 investigators around the state of Idaho that work ICAC cases 100% of the time for the Idaho ICAC unit. And the Attorney General's office, through the state legislator funds, reimburses that local agency the salary and benefits for that investigator or that cop in that police
Okay.
department to work ICAC cases source. So we assign those individual investigators cases. Now we follow up with them. We provide them resources and training to work ICAC cases. And the beauty of that is if we have an investigator, let's say I have a full-time affiliate in, we'll just use Boise Police Department, for example, and he or she is my full-time affiliate, and he comes to me and says, I can't work any more ICAC cases. No problem. Thank you for your service. Go back to working patrol. Go back as being a school resource officer, wherever the police department wants to put you. And the next person that's willing, able, and capable of working ICAC cases can step into that role. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we can
Yeah,
rotate
yeah.
those people. So the mental health we can stay on top of as well. I think that's the beauty of the program. And then strategically, they're around the state. So we have 11 affiliates. We have one in Idaho Falls Police Department, one in Bonneville County Sheriff's Office. We have an affiliate with the Pocatello Police Department full-time. We have one with the Rupert Police Department in the Magic Valley there. Here in the Boise Treasure Valley, we have one with Boise Police Department, Meridian Police Department, kind of moving that way. We have Nampa Police Department is a full-time affiliate. We have one with the Canyon County Sheriff's Office. And those are our two most recent affiliates coming on board was Nampa Police Department and Canyon County Sheriff's Office. Great affiliate agencies that we're excited to have them on board. And then covering the north and kind of north central, we have Moscow Police Department and then one in Coeur d'Alene and one in Post Falls Police Department. And all great affiliates, great agencies with people willing to help. And that's not to take away from all of the other agencies, a lot of small agencies and large agencies that will work ICAC cases for us within their jurisdiction when we have them and we say, hey, we need some help. We don't pay their salary, but we can try to give them training and resources and the equipment to do the job, but they don't work them all the time. And there's beauty in that too. You work one or two ICAC cases, for a lot of people, that's enough.
Yeah.
And myself included. When I took over, I took a case. I felt like because I'd never worked an ICAC case, I was like, I should work one of these and know. And so I took a case and It's traumatic. It really is. There's no question.
That's what I'm saying. So. I couldn't do it, man. Like, God bless the ones who can do it and not have it just and especially when you have kids, like anyway. I'm still like Rupert. Like, so it's like 300 people in Rupert. It's probably bigger than that.
Yeah,
but
Rupert Police
Department.
Rupert is a great little police department. They do a great job. The affiliate we have over there is a very skilled investigator. He's worked a lot of these kinds of cases, and because he has statewide jurisdiction under the task force with the Attorney General's task force, he helps a ton in the areas of Jerome and Twin Falls and Kimberly and that area. And so our affiliate over there, his name is Sam. He does a great job. And Rupert Police Department also, kind of a side note, has an electronic storage detection canine, a dog that will detect electronic devices. And that's one of 3. And we have one in the Attorney General's office we recently purchased, and then Idaho Falls Police Department. But that canine in Rupert, with that handler, although we don't reimburse the salary for that investigator, they work very closely with their ICAC unit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get the tip. Let's go back to the CUNA guy, right?
Yeah.
And you've got it out to an investigator. I mean, did he just show up on somebody's door and was like, "Hey, guess what?"
Yeah. So investigators start doing the investigator thing, which is acquiring the legal documents and the legal search warrants and stuff, affidavits and preservation letters for accounts, and so we're working closely with a lot of those ESPs or electronic service providers, the internets, and we're subpoenaing them and search warrant records and getting those back and building a case on the back end. And they take time. They do take time because those types of cases can be lengthy. Securing search warrants in certain areas can take time. We conduct surveillance and figure out, is this the person that we think it is? And eventually we get search warrants and arrest warrants and take enforcement action. And that's changed, and that's the arrest that we're seeing, right? Every time we make an arrest, we try to get out a press release if we can. So our task force is busy across the state. We're rallying and doing a thing, and then it's important for us. We have forensic investigators that are strictly trained to find the evidence once we get the devices, and they're very, very good at it. And so we have trained forensic investigators that also do phenomenal work, sometimes on the front end, but almost always on the back end, and do really, really good work.
Okay.
And then it goes from there. Like, we decide, does it go into state court, which is new. In the last about the last year and a half, we've really started taking more and more cases in state court. The Attorney General brought on state prosecutors in our office to help prosecute these cases in state court, and we have a great relationship with the federal courts as well with our federal prosecutors, and so we do both. We take them into state court and federal court both. Yeah.
How often are I was going to ask, how often are you involved with I assume the FBI, where it's like, hey, we think this guy is a big fish out there, I mean, does that happen fairly often, or once in a while?
It happens. It does happen. Fairly, I guess it happens. We do. I've taken calls from the FBI that says, "Hey, we have a person. We need some help," and we help. And we have. I believe, like, one of the things I'm most proud of in the ICAC task force in the last year and a half are the partnerships we've created and we've built. And those are not just our local law enforcement agencies and sheriff's offices and police departments, but it's with Idaho Department of Corrections and Probation and Parole. It's also with the juvenile probation systems. It's with our school resource officers and all of our federal partners. The FBI. I've got great relationships over there. We can call and help them take cases. They can take, we work really closely with them. Homeland Security Investigations and HSI, we work very closely with. They come out on search warrants with us. U.S. Marshals have been involved in this. Like, we've got good relationships across the state, and which is unique. Not all states have those relationships with federal partners and state partners and local jurisdictions. Like, it can sometimes be dicey, but we pride ourselves on, one team, one fight. Like, put the egos aside, we're all fighting to keep kids safe, and that's the point. That's the objective.
Is there a certain, maybe you can break it down, and I don't know if you have these numbers, but the amount of tips you get to where those are then analyzed and said, okay, so half go into not legit, these ones were legit, and out of those, how many end up turning into arrests, and then how many turn into convictions? I mean, that's quite the breakdown.
It is. I could probably pull it, but I will tell you, last year. So I'll give you another stat real quick. This might help us kind of people understand where we're at. So if you go to page 8 there, it's arrests.
You're good.
So
Okay.
what happens oftentimes too, so the other thing that we oftentimes will see is a cyber tip will come in, and it very well could be a young child that picked up mom and dad's iPad and videoed themselves in the bathtub. Or something like, and could be a no kidding legit accident, right?
Sure.
And that child generated a cyber tip with the National Center.
Oh, geez.
And we get those often. And so some of the cases that we get, we call those parent education, where our investigators will, it'll come through like a normal cyber tip. Our analysts will look at it and go, yeah, we need to talk to a parent here. They need to know that they generated a cyber tip. Or it might be, two teenage kids being dumb and sending something back and forth to each other. And we call that parent education. And so we will always reach out to the parent and say, hey, this happens. And so not every case that gets investigated ends up in an arrest, but oftentimes can be parent education and outreach. And we're talking to parents and saying, hey, just so you're aware this happened, you need to be aware of it, and let's not do it again, right?
Yeah.
So we get a lot of that as well.
Okay.
I could probably break down the statistic and find it for you. Last year, with the cyber tips that we ended up with, we made 55 arrests in the unit alone. So not including all of the other affiliate agencies, but just within the full-time guys working ICAC, we made 55 total arrests. And you'll notice that is leaps and bounds above what we've done in historic years, at least through 2020. Yes, the number of cyber tips has gone up. That's true.
Sure.
But it's tough to articulate some of those numbers if there was a backlog of 2,000 before I took over, right? It's
Right.
like something just didn't add up.
Yeah.
But we've made significant progress. We're making a lot of arrests, and this year I think we're on track to exceed that number. So,
Does the group feel, the organization, or does the AG feel like, you're going, okay, we've got the staffing, we're kind of staying on top of this, or is it just like, oh my gosh, we need to double the size of our team because this is just out of control? Because child exploitation, I know, is a massive problem across the country, and so I assume whatever you're getting and doing is probably not everything, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot more.
There's a lot more, and just. We can see that strategically, like the number of cyber tips is going to continue. We can forecast that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. And so we're always trying to do that strategic planning. Like, what do we need, right? What's going to happen in the future? What does that look like? We've had those conversations with with my boss, with the Attorney General. He's aware of that, and we're trying to work through where can we strategically place resources to help stay on top of this. But right now, the partnerships are working. It is working right now. I can say that, and we have every intention to try to stay on top of it. And if that's add additional resources or whatever that looks like, I found that this is the one thing that everybody can get behind. Most everybody can get behind
Right.
is protecting kids. So.
Yeah. So what? How do parents? Like, if you had some tips for parents on, other than hey, make sure your kid's not taking pictures or videos of themselves, and you get teenagers. I'm sure a lot of parents are worried about sexting and all that kind of stuff. So other than that, when you look at these real predators that are trying to steal pictures of your kids, or they're what are the best tips that you guys have for parents to go, hey, this is what you really need to be looking out for. This is where most of the problem is coming from, this one thing that you're not paying attention to.
Love that question. So I can talk about trends real quick and what we're seeing. Of the cyber tips that we get in from the National Center, a lot of times this surprises people, but 80%, I'd say 75 to 80% of what we get that our analysts are looking at come from Snapchat in Idaho. It's not okay. Snapchat is one of they're reporting, but there's something to be said about the cyber tips that we're getting are Snapchat related. And so I joke, I don't know if I should say this or not, but in my mind, Snapchat is the sewer of social media sites. Like, for kids, they should be very careful.
What is I've heard of Snapchat. I've told my kids they aren't allowed on social media for the most part anyway. What's the difference between Snapchat and Instagram and Facebook that is causing this particular? Is it just a newer thing?
I think it's just a popular app. I think it's a popular app, and the other challenging part is that Snapchat messages go away. And so there's some
okay.
challenges with that. And so that being said, Snapchat we get a lot of Snapchat referrals, but we get others. We get, all of across the board, all of the different ones. And so we built a slide that I call the 15 apps that every parent should know about. Like every parent should know about 15 apps, and one of those is Snapchat. Like you should educate yourself on Snapchat, know what it does, know what it can do, vault apps, things that people can hide. And I think most importantly, that's a trend, and all of these apps that we should be aware of, and all the things that the Attorney General's he has said multiple times, like a well-engaged parent, right? Do the parenting thing that you've been asked to do. But the other trend that we're seeing, a massive uprise, is the sextortion stuff. So, you have a young man who's targeted right now. The target is between 15 to 17 years of age. Is young men. It's not targeted towards women or girls. It's not that it couldn't, but the trend is 15 to 17 years of age. And what is happening is they're being befriended or contacted by what they believe to be a young lady, that maybe an attractive young lady. They are enticed or encouraged, or for whatever reason make a bad decision, and they share an image with that person. And then they're turned around and blackmailed for that image.
Okay.
Does that make sense? It's
it's
a blackmail tactic, a catfishing / blackmail tactic. And then, the threat is, hey, I'll expose you to your I'm going to show this picture to your parents, your church leaders, your grandparents, I'll share it to whoever. And unless you pay me some sort of amount of money. And so the most common way they're paying is gift cards, cash apps. And so a lot of times these kids are paying that stuff, and then it just continues this thing. And so we have a resource out there available as well. I'll share it with you. It's in here. But parents need to know what to do if your child comes and says, hey, I did a thing. I need some help now. And what's the best steps, and what steps can you take to keep your kids safe, and how to kind of navigate a sextortion case. And we get those a lot. I got 2 yesterday here in the state of Idaho. We had 2 reported from the National Center. And we make every effort to contact local law enforcement, local jurisdictions, to make sure, one, a welfare check is done on that child. A growing trend, and it's not hard to find the statistic, is oftentimes if the kid refuses to pay or can't pay, the tactics then turn to encourage that child to commit some sort of suicide.
Oh, geez.
And so my first and foremost priority in our task force is to keep the kids safe. And so we are immediately making phone calls to local law enforcement to say, hey, we believe your child was sextorted. Are they okay? And do they have somebody to turn to, and then get them the help that they need? But that's the first step. Yeah. So sextortion, also, huge, super popular right now as far as a trend that we're seeing, but there's resources to help do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
The other one is, NECMEC does a pretty good job. You have a child or somebody that puts something online that wants it taken down, right? They put it online, and the adage is, oh, it's online forever. I can't get it off. I can't get that back away. It's out there in the ethers, in the web. And the National Center for Missing Exploited Children has a website and a resource to help people take it down. It's literally called takeitdown.necmec.org. And parents, kids, anybody can get on there. You can, one, report abuse or suspected abuse, but they can also help you take that content down off of the internet. And they're being pretty successful doing that.
Okay.
So,
wow.
Good resource for parents. Yeah.
Okay. Crap, I had another question. I'm trying to remember what it was.
Sorry, I just kept going there for a
No,
minute.
you're good. You're good. Look through there, see if there's anything else you want on there. So when we're talking about the tips that are coming in, and this is what I was going to ask you, is almost everything you're doing generated off of the NECMEC, or are you guys also like, hey, we're kind of slower on tips in this area, and so your local guys are out doing their own stuff?
Good question. I know right where you're going. Like, so we a lot of what we do is reactive because we get so many cyber tips, right? And so it oftentimes can be difficult to be proactive in our investigations, but we have been in the last year and a half. Just in the last 6 months, we've done some undercover, what I call undercover chat operations, where we have investigators that are trained in chatting online and posing as a 13-year-old girl. And we have been very successful in having doing these undercover chat operations. And if we weren't being successful, we would stop doing them. But we have been successful. We've done 3 in the last month and made multiple arrests at every one of them. And so we did one in East Idaho, we did one here in Canyon County, and then we did one in North Idaho just recently. And all three of those, we made arrests of suspects that are coming in, believing that they're meeting up with a 13-year-old girl to have sexual intercourse, and in fact, they met up with a police officer. So we do these undercover chat ops because, one, I think it's proactive, and I'm not afraid about talking about them because we want people to know, we need people to stop doing this. We're going to enforce it. We're going to continue to do it, and continue to do the reactive stuff with the cyber tips as well. So yeah, we're doing both.
Okay.
Yep.
What if a parent or someone has suspicions that someone in their neighborhood or someone online that they've seen, they don't know how to contact NECMEC and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do they do if they suspect that, hey, I think something's going on here, that a child's being exploited?
Yep.
Who do they contact? How do they do that?
So they can always call their local law enforcement, always call their local jurisdiction and say, hey,
Okay.
I think my kid's being sextorted. And if that local jurisdiction in Idaho, we're trying to help them. When they call, we will help. So if they don't know how to handle it or have questions or need help, we are always available as well. Our task force will always help. So they can start at their local jurisdiction if they want to. If they want to go direct to us, they also can do that as well. And so the Idaho ICAC Task Force website has there's a website, Idaho ICAC Task Force. If you, on the upper right-hand side, it says report abuse, and it doesn't have to be physical abuse. It can be, hey, I think my kid's chatting with somebody they shouldn't be chatting with. Report it. You can also reach out. We investigate a lot of stuff on social media, but we also have social media for that very reason that people can access us. So they can reach out Facebook, Instagram, through our website. They can call. There's a phone number. And then again, all the local jurisdictions in across Idaho know how to get a hold of us. We've got good partnerships, good relationships with them. Yep.
Okay. Is there anything else that we have not covered? And again, I'll put some of these slides up. I know that we've talked
these are
about.
QR
great.
codes. Have them follow the new dog. It's crazy. We got this new electronic detection canine, and
How does that work?
so
people have questions about drug sniffing dogs sometimes, and how accurate that is. How the electronic thing? How does that work?
I will give you how it's been explained to me. Now, I'm not a handler. I'm not pretending to be a handler, but I will tell you how it's been explained to me. The dog is actually considered dual purpose. It serves as a therapy dog as well, and so we can certainly, that just having this dog in our office with my analysts and other investigators in the office, our forensic investigators here in the office, that dog, it's crazy. It really is a pretty cool tool to have in the office. But as far as the electronic detection, what it does, my understanding is that there's a glue component in all electronics that is used, and that, whether that's an SD card, a thumb drive, a hidden camera, a cell phone, a laptop, a tablet, the same chemical glue is used in all of them, and that dog is detecting that. That's what it's looking for.
Okay.
We have deployed that dog. We got the dog in April. The handler, Lauren Lane, and the dog have been deployed multiple times already. We've had them just yesterday. They helped serve a search warrant and found devices that investigators actually searched an area and missed the hidden devices that we believe the content was on, and the dog was able to find them. So it's serving its purpose. They're very good. It's a great tool for our team.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think
That's crazy.
General Labrador likes the fact that it's a Labrador. So
Oh boy, that might be cut from the interview. Who knows? Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. Well, Nick, I really appreciate you sitting down. Is there anything else you'd like to add that we just
no?
haven't
We have a
covered?
lot of people that ask, like, "Hey, what can we do for resources?" Reach out to us. Let us know. There's probably a need somewhere. We're always willing to do presentations, community outreach. We can, if there's an educator out there or a church group or any organization that wants, us to come out and do a presentation on internet safety, bring the dog out and let kids interact with dog, we're happy to do it. Free of charge. We'll come out and we want to just keep people safe online.
Yeah, honestly, it might be a good presentation that you could put together for the schools, that someone who can maybe at the school can familiarize themselves enough to go, hey, at every school we've got this presentation or even a video or something. I don't know, but it's a different world from when maybe you and I were born.
For sure.
And I always joke that I was in the no computers to playing Oregon Trail on this like old school, remember that game?
We were
And
the
then-
same generation, man.
Right. Yeah. And then I had a beeper, I think, right out of high
yeah.
school. And then, so we kind of got to watch this world of no electronics other than, a Nintendo.
I've been in the police
you know,
department that
so-
issued me a beeper for SWAT callouts. I had to like look at my pager and then get to a phone.
So I feel for our kids. I feel as a parent, like it's mortifying and horrifying because you try to control it the best you can and you try to stop things from happening. And it's a different world. I feel bad for our kids, our grandkids. Like AI, that is going to be extremely scary. And I don't know if you guys have dealt with that, but the AI they can make now is very realistic. And you got to think that at some point, these horrible people, they're not going to need actual pictures of your kids or videos.
Yeah.
They're going to find a picture with your kid in a soccer uniform, take his or her face, and then just put it on pornography and make it. And I don't know how we stop that, but that to me, I'm just like.
Well, I appreciate you bringing it up. It's probably a
know.
topic we very well could have talked about. Last year, our Idaho legislators, very proactive, did a great job and passed a new AI law for ICAC. And it's not just AI, but it's computer-generated images as well. And so anybody that takes an image and changes it, whether they're using some sort of Photoshop or using AI to create child sexual abuse material, is considered a felony. And so our legislators in Idaho, definitely in front of many other states. My counterparts in other states do not have state statutes that govern it yet. Idaho passed one, and it went into effect last July. And so for almost a year now, we've been enforcing, and we get cyber tips that are AI-generated images. Also, we get them that are, cartoon images. It's still considered a felony in the state of Idaho if it shows or demonstrates child sexual abuse material. So we've seen it. We're dealing with it. We've got the laws in place in Idaho for us to help us do our job and hold people accountable for it. So we're doing a great job with that. The AI stuff in Idaho, for at least when in regards to ICAC, it's working.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Awesome, sir. Well, thank you again for your time.
Always
I
good to
appreciate
see
it. All right. Take care. Thank you guys for watching. We'll put up all the information in the description on the links and all that good stuff that Nick talked about today. And if you guys have any questions, again, we'll put up everything that Nick talked about so you guys can reach out to them if you have any tips or concerns or anything else regarding ICAC. So thank you. Take care. God bless. All right. Greg Pruitt here with the Idaho Dispatch, and I am joined today by
Lauren Lane, investigator in the ICAC unit.
All right, that's not the Superman reporter, right?
No, but it's very similar.
Was that
Lois Lane.
Lois Lane.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anyway, awesome. Well, thank you for joining us for this demonstration. And so, who do we have? Who do we have down here?
Yeah, this is my partner, Canine Badger. He is an electronic storage detection canine.
Okay. And so what does that mean exactly? Because interviewing with Nick, I said, what in the world does that mean? Like, how in the world does a dog detect electronics? Because that seems crazy.
Right, it is kind of crazy. And so there are only 200 of these dogs in the world.
Okay.
Badger is one of them, and there are 3 law enforcement ESDs in the state of Idaho. What he's trained to do is detect a chemical compound that's sprayed on storage devices.
Okay.
The term for it is triphenyl phosphine oxide. TPPO is what it is for short. But it's sprayed on circuit boards for storage devices to prevent them from overheating.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's on every electronic in the world, no matter what, or is that kind of most of them have this stuff?
It's going to be anything that can store memory.
Okay.
So he can find what we're looking for typically is going to be like cell phones, tablets, flash drives, hard drives. But he'll also hit on things like Bluetooth headphones.
Okay.
Vapes, some of the newer vapes, remotes, things like that.
Jeez.
Yeah, so it's anything that can store memory with a circuit board.
Okay. Awesome. And so how do you do, you're ready to go, you're ready to search something, how does he know, hey, it's time to start looking for stuff?
Yeah, and a lot of people ask that too, like how does he not go crazy all the time because there's electronics everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So we have words and kind of a system that we go through.
Okay.
And I'll show you exactly what we do, but first I'll walk you through it is I say, let's go to work. And then I tell him to seek. And I usually walk around a room first to make sure there's not anything dangerous like drugs or knives sticking up anywhere.
Okay.
Because obviously their safety is important. And then I'll walk him around the room and he'll kind of do his assessment of the room.
Okay.
And then once we're ready, I say, okay, let's go to work. And I start pointing targets.
He's getting ready. He's like,
"Yeah,
all right, I heard it. Let's do it.
I point targets, and basically what I'm saying is smell right here. I say seek, 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 and he's supposed to smell near where I'm showing him. If he gets into scent, usually he's going to sit down, and then once he sit down, I say good, and I say show me. And when I say show me, he's supposed to boop it with his face, which is actually adorable.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes he doesn't, the cool thing about, a canine and their handler is you spend so much time working together. We train twice a day, at least. And so I know him really well. He knows me really well. Sometimes he won't sit because maybe he's on top of like a wobbly bed or like he's been on a toilet before looking at a shelf. But he'll like look at me and it's really cool to see like, I know you're trying to sit and I know you're in something.
Yeah.
And then I'll ask him to seek at that point. So that's a really cool thing about these dogs and working with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, let's check out this demonstration. This will be interesting.
I'll tell him to go to work and then we'll walk around the room real quick and let's go to work. See? I already checked for knives, so we're good.
Yeah. Controlled environment here.
See? So I usually start in the room. I'll start like at the doorway.
Okay. Sure.
See? Sometimes we'll go back and forth and check over lower areas to top areas. See? Good. Show me. Yes, good boy. So in this tissue box, you can see he's drooling because every time he finds something, he gets fed.
Oh, okay.
And that's actually how these dogs eat too. But in this tissue box, he stood up and showed me a phone.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to work. Seek. 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 Good, show me. Yes, good boy. And with him, he's pretty subtle.
Okay.
But you can see he sat for a second. He actually like sniffed out a little bit. And then once I told him to show me, he booped his head forward on the chair. A flash drive that he found. Seek. 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 Good. Show me. Show me. Yes, good boy. I didn't hide this, but...
Oh, I was like, I don't remember you hiding
Yeah, he'll hit
there.
on this. He'll hit on a lot of different items that aren't necessarily relevant, but...
Okay.
Seek. 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 Good. Show me. Yes, good boy. So there's a hard drive under here.
Oh, okay.
Good boy. And he found them all. You wouldn't believe it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you often do when you're doing training, like go into an office space here at work and go, okay, somebody hide something somewhere that I don't know where it is, but you know where it is to try and test him further and...
Yeah, that's a great question. So I try to change it up. Honestly, like I try to do my best twice a day to give him the best training opportunities. Sometimes I will have other people in the office or even my kids know how to hide stuff, and we'll search it blind. But sometimes too, I will hide stuff. Knowing where I hide it, I'm making sure he's pinpointing like perfectly on it.
Okay.
And so it depends on what I want to do that day. But we do change it up between the rooms that we use, the places I hide it. I'll do like hide someday. We go into different rooms. Sometimes we go outside. We've done water searches. So it's just like as much exposure as I can get him.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you. That was a really cool demonstration. Hopefully you guys can travel around and the kids can meet one of the dogs and that'd be kind of cool. So
yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Anything else you'd want to tell them about Zeke?
Yeah, I think one thing I left out was
Badger. Sorry, Badger. Yeah,
one thing I left out about Badger is he is certified in electronic storage detection, but he's also duly certified in therapy.
Okay.
So he is great around the office for investigators and prosecutors that have to deal with CSAM and see some of these awful things.
Yeah.
He's also really good on search warrants. We might have family members or victims present when we complete search warrants. And so these dogs, they truly are dual purpose. And so he does his searches, but we've had him on search warrants with last week there was a 1-year-old girl there, and we searched the whole house, came back, and she just pet him the whole time.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
they're very special dogs.
When you say therapy, real quick, does that, is it they can he detects that maybe something's going on, or it's just good to have him around? He understands, maybe when someone's sad, or what do you mean by therapy?
Yeah, so he's trained to do different moves. So come here, circle, circle, circle. He's like, where's that food? Circle. So he does stuff like this.
Okay.
He does stuff like if somebody's sitting on a couch, he'll put his chin on their leg.
Okay.
In general, he's just a really nice dog.
Yeah.
So just having him around is therapy. But he also does have some moves that he can do
Okay.
that people seem to like. So
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for your time.
yeah, thank
All
you
right.
so much.